So welcome to our new Hash It Out episode. My name is Rob. I am the SVP of Strategy and one of our field CPOs at Virtru. And I got Peter here with me today.
Yeah, I'm Peter Nagcaro. I'm our Director of Security and Site Reliability Engineering and IT here at Virtru.
Cool, Peter. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
So,
I wish sometimes that we were talking about like all these positive things, but welcome to this industry, right? We get to talk about the sour things, and it's really interesting though, right? Because read this new publication, this new vulnerability, this exploited vulnerability with Microsoft, what looks like a targeted, sophisticated attack, right?
yeah, oh yeah, it's definitely targeted from state-backed attackers who have a lot of power.
Yeah, I think it's funny, like they, whenever the official, they didn't want to call out the state, but, all the, but anyways, yeah, I thought it was really interesting because this is yet again kind of another forged authentication situation, right?
Yep, yeah, forged authentication, highly complicated attack.
Yeah.
This isn't your everyday phishing attack. I've got your really strong password, Rob. I know you love password 123, and that's really the one. It's not something easy.
Getting the
stories. Yeah, change the assets for dollars.
exactly.
No, it's much more complicated than that. Finding holes in Microsoft isn't always easy, although we see it from time to time.
Yeah.
And tricking Microsoft's validation of these tokens, very complicated to find that and exploit and discover.
Right. And I'm going to get back to that forging piece, but like what you said there was really interesting because in this particular case, I think I understood it correctly. This is new. Like, to be fair, like this is evolving. We're going to learn more.
Absolutely.
So we're going to be, sensitive to that.
So we have already 2 paragraphs to work.
Right. So we're working with, but it's still interesting because you forge those tokens effectively in this particular case. The OWA and Exchange Service, the web services endpoints, basically were the entry vectors. They're like, it looked legitimate.
Yeah.
Effectively, you had no idea this was not a legitimate user because the way in which that forged token was derived.
That's right. Yeah. So for Microsoft, these look like legitimate requests, and that's why they're passing them in and allowing access to accounts. And it's likely that they had no idea this was going on for the last month.
Right.
Why their customers ended up discovering it through what we presume was other means.
Right. And, I trust Microsoft. Microsoft does invest a lot into security, no doubt about it. So a lot of organizations I know that, like I've been a part of and I talk to, they do trust Microsoft quite a bit.
Yeah.
They put a lot into that basket, which, that to some percentage, that's absolutely okay, right? Because they are. They're not incentivized to do bad security, right?
They leave.
But so the detection, which is really interesting because I looked in some of the articles and some of the agencies that actually found it. It was, right now it's like somewhere around 23 mailboxes, something like that. I think that make rogue. It always changes a little bit, but kudos to the agencies, right? Because they were actually doing some really interesting behavioral analysis on those logs to see, hey, not only was this abnormal access to mailbox, but from an abnormal authenticated client application.
Yeah, right? Yeah, really interesting. And it kind of goes into, you have this huge world of cybersecurity, and there's all these pieces into really security organization.
Yeah.
One of those is you use a provider you trust, Microsoft.
Absolutely.
They're backed by this huge security organization, and we know security is not perfect anywhere. That's vulnerabilities, software made by humans, we make mistakes, but you can't just trust your provider. There's a mistake like this. So, there's a good chance one of these agencies is taking in these logs, analyzing them, building models on what does behavior look like. Yeah. And that's why their program of monitoring, and they might have the strongest filled with people looking at these logs going, well, that doesn't look right. What's going on here? Yeah. And that can, trigger this notification to Microsoft, like, oh, this is bigger than just you.
Right, because this was community sourced. I mean, again, a bit of credit to Microsoft here because they said, we learned this from the community. Thank goodness they had treated that appropriately.
Yeah.
Good on them for that. Not common, though, for organizations to have a sophisticated behavioral analysis capability to do that correlation on those logs. That's fair?
In their opinion, yeah, for sure. I mean, at least these agencies who are being targeted are hopefully appropriately staffed. We know there's staffing issues in the government, but also in the industry. So, having tooling and technology to support that is absolutely critical.
So, I mean, I think you nailed it right there. Like, I think about, where to invest, and you want to invest in preventative things. Absolutely you do. But let's be honest. The truth is, it's a very complicated landscape.
Yeah.
Especially in these cloud-native environments where the number of applications that you're using is significant.
Yeah.
So I can't stress enough. Like, I think about, my past. I think about, I definitely did not always was not always able to invest in the skills and the tools necessary to bring that telemetry together.
Yeah.
This just proves, hey, that investment resulted in early detection.
For sure.
Right. As early as possible.
Yeah. And that the earliness is really important there because let's say they discovered this through logs.
Yeah.
Some anomaly popped up and that's what triggered it. Finding that anomaly is not as simple as just, well, we get logs from Microsoft.
Exactly. And like, if you think about the way this forged circle is taking place, right? Like, there are ancillary services that could have been implicated, right? They chose to target a particular set of services where those tokens work, but in this world we live in today, in that cloud environment, that ecosystem is multi-app. The lateral movement potential is huge.
And Microsoft being as large as they are, a lot of people are relying on them for authentication.
Exclusively, right? Exclusively.
Yeah. And as a user, you love that because you have one login. That's right. The implications down the line.
Right. It makes me think about, like, strategy.
Yeah.
Rethinking the strategy of my security stack, both preventative and remediative.
Yep.
Right. And that over-indexed trust we put in single providers, right? It's kind of hard to think of a single provider. They're like a conglomerate of a bunch of different things, but they're under one umbrella, right? Yeah. From that perspective, it makes me think of that strategy not being potentially the best strategy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's great to work with a vendor you trust.
Yeah.
Microsoft has a huge Microsoft, Google, all of these.
Yeah.
These huge companies have a ton of tools that can make your life easier.
Yeah.
And once you have them and trust them and, you want to be in one ecosystem, that's great. But having that single point of failure, that can hurt.
To me, I think we live in a different world now, though, right? Where you said consolidating there is great because it makes your life easier. I think we live in a different world today. Security has a different priority. Tools in our ecosystem are easier to use. You could have a different view of that strategy while still getting access to ease of use. In my opinion.
No, I mean, I think you're right. The term defense in depth, right?
Absolutely.
Security, absolutely. I think that's still an important idea in the security space, but because of this ease and speed to just adopt a provider, use a right the ads, right? Some organizations have probably gone away from that.
So it's a legitimate debt. It's not an actual debt, right?
Microsoft, any other provider is going to have a ton of documentation describing their defense in that.
Yeah.
But that doesn't all translate to your.
Right. And, the common denominator in this particular scenario, the Virtru attack, while they did just seem to target or were successful, or we don't know how far they went, but I think where they were successful, it was email, right? That's one thing, but that's data.
Yeah.
The data is the thing that's there.
That's what's valuable.
That's what's valuable, right? So that's the common denominator. So in this case, thinking about that strategy, separating how you're governing that data from the container in which the data is held is, to me, an important topic.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure. Yeah. Email is such a critical part of every business operation,
right?
Government function. And we know that is always highly sensitive, highly informative, useful to a potentially spy organization. Kind of seems to indicate that these, attackers were spy and they were looking for just collecting data, doing it quietly for a period of a month.
Absolutely.
And
no, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think though that in that particular case, like, the data is what was valuable, obviously, right? in this particular situation, those forged tokens resulted in no more levers. You had no more levers. The data was gone.
Yeah.
So I like thinking about data-centric security, applying that to the payload itself so that, okay, you pop the container.
Yeah.
Okay, great. You still have to come to some other policy authorization plane to gain access to the payload. So I'm glad you have that ciphertext, but it's of no use to you.
Yeah. Right. You just sit there and watch an inbox.
Right.
And get any information.
Right. And that data is going to move between other applications, OneDrive, email, Slack.
Yeah.
The data is what's common there.
Yeah.
By having that separate governance plane, to me, where I stand, that gives you an additional lever.
For sure. And especially when you know it's sensitive data. If they want to watch your lunch plans, it might not be ideal. Maybe you're a public figure working for one of these agencies. Maybe you decide not to apply control there. Right. But when you're sending the coordinates of a highly sensitive mission, we want to keep that between us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And being able to selectively apply those controls.
And you and I were just talking about this earlier. I was being sensitive to the fact that you, in your role for us, and thank goodness you orchestrate this, is you're organizing and aggregating all of these sources of telemetry.
Yep.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But those all tell different perspectives about what's happening to the thing that you care about the most, which is the data.
Yeah.
So, another thing too, I think about in this particular case, because remember that telemetry was how they found out this attack was happening. Fair? Right?
Yeah.
So if you apply that data-centric policy, that data-centric security, you have a view from the data itself.
That's right.
So as it moves into other environments, you're getting that telemetry.
Yeah.
So if I pull that payload out of the container and I go to try to access it, I now have telemetry I didn't have before.
Yeah.
Which was after it was pulled out, right? That seems to me to be where I stand today. I'm thinking about the future of kind of posture management and remediative capabilities and risk reduction.
Yeah.
We know data is important. Technology's evolved. We can have a different view at the data level to give us that. And where we just talked about earlier, ease of use has met us. Because technologies are capable of this now. So at this wasn't possible before. Let's be honest, but it is today. From where I stand.
No, I think you're right in that. Yeah, you have that extra layer of control. Yeah. But going through the telemetry, you have added telemetry right on the data itself as well. And even in a scenario like this, I'm sure they have a good sense of what data was compromised. Sure. But being able to go look email by email.
That's right.
Having that assurance that no, this was not, or this was read. Really helps them identify that scope in that incident response process, because there's a lot of stress going on. And being able to take, who knows, hundreds of thousands, millions of emails, and we know that these chunk are safe. Makes everyone worst day slightly better.
I think it's like, it's great to know that package was stolen out of the backseat of your car. But wouldn't it be a lot better to be able to say they couldn't open it and get inside of it? Right? This is the thing, right?
Definitely.
One lets you know that something bad happened, and the other one actually manages your anxiety. Organizationally, right?
You might not be happy about it, but it's not going to end your life.
I think a final point, like for me, is we owe consumers, we owe our customers, we owe them more. Right. So that additional lever is saying to them, the data is what we know. That matters to you, and we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to govern it effectively. So look, I appreciate the conversation. Like this was a really interesting. I look forward to learning more.
I can't wait to them to pull back some of the layers.
Excited the community responded. Excited how it's going on. And I appreciate the chat today.
Good seeing you.
Cool.